Welcome to the Day of the Dead art workshop. We are going to be basically decorating it on paper. You don't need a wooden skull like this. I got this at Michael's and it's really cool. It lights up. If I were to turn the light off, it looks even cooler. But today, I'll just be drawing it on paper because you might not have a wood skull at home. Of course, you could use this on a ceramic skull, like a 3D skull or whatever you find, or even a real animal skull. I think that would be really fun. My name's Sohaila Cherie, and this is actually my first online workshop. I'm doing this in person next week. So you received this Sugar Skull Art Workshop supply list if you purchased the course. And here's all of the supplies you will need. A pencil, markers, small paintbrushes, acrylic paint, paper or wood skull, watercolor paint, a cup of water, 2 clean brushes, and paper towels. And then glue if you're using glitter, but I also have some glitter glue that I'm going to use later on. First, we're going to start off with drawing the skull. You could trace this onto paper, this template that I have included in the PDF. And then we have some inspiration photos of design elements to add into the skull. So I'll be taking ideas from parts that I like and use that to inspire me. All right, so I could draw the skull like this, or I can make it a little more dimensional. I like how this looks. So let's start off by drawing. You have to decide on how big you want your skull. I'll probably make mine pretty big so you can see it easily. When you draw a skull, that's pretty much half the page, almost half the page. And then you would connect it down. There's the draw line. I'm drawing light right now. You'll see it better in just a second. You want to come in to make the cheekbone. It goes in and then out. If you want to make it more realistic, you can make small straight lines. I think it actually goes like this. You can always erase. Don't worry about messing it up. A lot of people fear messing it up and they never even start. So good job being here and just have fun with it. So Day of the Dead is all about remembering those you've lost, the loved ones you've lost, and really celebrating them and being happy for them that they are in a better place. It's easy to feel sad and depressed about losing a loved one, but the Day of the Dead is all about just celebrating their life. And it's a very rich traditional celebration and a huge part of the Mayan culture in Mexico. And I think it's been happening for a very long time. And these days they celebrate, I don't know how it was like way back then, but they visit cemeteries and they leave marigolds from the gravesite all the way to their home. And they believe that it helps lead the soul back home. And then they have altars that they build for their loved one with candles and flowers and photos and even their favorite food that they loved. Okay, so I got the cheekbone down. Again, you could use this template that I have printed out, but I'm using a thicker paper so that I can do mixed media. So you can always trace that onto here. You can't see through the watercolor paper, but you could use your pencil and script, basically color this whole page. And then you can trace these lines and it'll come up for you. Oh, just got paint on it. Great. That's just great. It's okay. It's going to be covered anyways, eventually. All right. Now we are going to make a light line in the middle, going down the center of the skull. And then about halfway across. It's a little less than halfway. Just like the human anatomy drawing tips, you go halfway down. Okay. Usually this is split in half. I'll just find that's like the center right there. And then halfway between these 2 points, that's where the middle of the teeth would be. And then we'll fill in the hole of where the nose would be. You could do the nose like a heart shape. Could do it more realistic. I think I'll end up just painting this black anyways. if we want to make it decorative, we could make it like a really skinny heart. So from there, we'll make the eye socket. And it's way bigger than you think it should be. When it comes to our eyes, we don't really think about how big the socket is. Okay, just about there. You could make it a little smaller if you wanted to do a design around, so you have enough room. So I can actually do flowers or anything around there. I think that's pretty good. Okay, the fun part is making it symmetrical. I want to make it a little bit bigger. Good enough. I hope you're following along nicely. If not, the cool part is that you can always pause this. Okay, now for the teeth. Of course, you have your top teeth, so let's just line it out. It goes in a little curve. This will be the top teeth. And this will be the bottom teeth. Okay, we're gonna paint this later, so don't worry about the marks you're making with the pencil if it's a little sketchy or. So you can see that some of the teeth you can make, some of the teeth are round here. Some of these teeth are straight, depending on the style you want. So you get to choose. Make sure you have these handy. These ones even have gums at the top. And then the front teeth are going to be the biggest, and then it gets smaller from there. Could make it curve down. You don't want to spend too much time on the teeth. Smaller and smaller. You can always make yourself guiding lines and then erase when you're done. You can make them matching exactly, even though that's not how teeth really are. This is more of a decorative piece of art. So symmetry looks nice. I'm gonna start with the gums. And I will color this in later with marker. Right now we're just lining stuff out. And then you can erase the guiding lines. If you want to do a chin line, there's lots of room for a design, so I don't think you have to do that. This is going to be dark here. Trying to decide on what line I like. Now, as you're doing this, you can think about your loved one that you've lost, whether it be a pet or someone really close to you. I think about my sister who died in 2016, and I really miss her. And if I were to make a little altar for her to have a cheeseburger and a chocolate shake and a cigarette and a pen and paper because she loved drawing. All right, so now that we have this laid out, you can finalize your lines. I think I like the look of the bigger opening for the eye. Okay. So now it's time for the design. So since symmetry looks really good on these, you can start in the middle and then go out from there. I am just choosing to start in the middle on the top. You could start wherever you want, but you can follow along with me. It might be easier. I like to start in the middle and then work my way out. So we could start, actually do a design inside the eyeball. That might be fun. On paper, you can do that. You can't really do that with the wood skull. So I started out with the flowers around the eye, and then I saw this diamond shape because of the petals I added. And then I added the designs on the outside to fill it up. And I thought this would be cool. It's very symmetrical. And so I focused on the bigger elements first and then filled in the smaller elements. I'm just going to do a circle in the middle. Oh. And no, it's not going to be perfect because we're not perfect. So you could have a little stencil here The stencils that have the cutouts of different shapes. That would be fun here. It has triangles and different sizes of circles. I think flowers are always fun. Let's see. It looks good when the shapes are all the same size throughout, and that's a challenge. So you have to train your eye, especially if you don't draw a lot. It's easiest to draw it all out first, and if you don't like it, you can always change it before you start painting and decorating with different mixed media supplies. That looks pretty cool. And it's okay that elements overlap as long as it's not too much in the way. I'm trying to make this symmetrical because it looks cool like that. So, okay. You have to imagine an imaginary a line coming out from basically the center. So from the center out, that will help you with the petals to keep them like nice and straight. See how mine are getting off? It should be pointing more this way and this way. And hopefully the petals fit at the very end. You never know. Just keep that in mind when you're at the very last 3 or 4 so that you can make them all fit on that shape. I'm doing a lot of petals for some reason. Let's look at these and hopefully I don't get more paint on my skull. You could pick out the elements that you like and look at each one of these. And let's say you like these petals, you can color them in to remind yourself to do that. If you don't want to do these flowers on the top, the roses, you can add more petals here. I like these. Or you could circle them too. I like these swirls. Those are fun. And definitely like these hearts, even though I already did a design, I can add the heart somewhere else. It doesn't have to be exactly the way it's placed here. It's just giving you ideas of where to start. So you're not starting with nothing. It's that can help you with the overthinking and perfectionism. I definitely deal with that. It's good to have references. There's nothing wrong with it. You're still creating your own unique design and really diving into your own style because it's what you prefer. Okay, I like these on the jawline. Let's see. I like this one and this one. I like this. Maybe I'll put a spider web, but in the center, like that. There's a lot of room here too. I like these swirls. Okay. Let's continue to draw, and I wonder what you're going to choose. So many options. That's the fun thing about art. Anything goes, and everyone can do the same project, but everyone will look different. Everyone has their own style, so their own unique voice will come out. And that's the cool thing about art. Okay. I'm going to do these swirls coming out. And feel free to just copy what I'm doing too, if that's what you want to do. These remind me of like a paisley design. It is tricky to make it all even. So instead of starting over here, I could maybe do a line of where I think it starts. I could use a ruler and line it up, but it's not, doesn't have to be that perfect. So I could start here to see, okay, it's about this far away. Bigger and smaller. Then I have to add the second one. It's a really good brain exercise to do this, actually. It challenges the visual, spatial awareness. And I'm sure that that part of your brain is firing right now and making new connections. I'll do more of this. I don't really like that. Okay. More of this paisley design. I'm gonna do hearts here. That's fun. Maybe I'll add a tiny one here. I'm gonna make the skull bigger on this side. And then I want to do circles, all the same size, all around here. Maybe I'll do a diamond. It's fun to just bounce around. But I'm doing mostly the bigger shapes first, so I can, again, do the details later. Adding some leaves here. It's like a little vine. Feel free to stop the video and catch up if you need to, if you're going a little slower. This is just go at your own pace and have fun with it. I I want to do like a lightning bolt, but I don't want to do it on both sides. Maybe I will. Okay, so the spider web goes out like an umbrella. And it goes, there's one in the middle. And on this side. So even. And then another one, all coming from the center. Oops. Okay. Maybe I'll do one more, or maybe this will be it. Okay. And then we do these lines all the way across. Go up into the line here. How many do we want to do? I'll do about 4 of them. Do one more. Oh, that looks cool. All right. I would like to do I'll just finish this first. All right. We're almost ready for the watercolor. We're going to do a wash of watercolor on top of this pencil. Usually it's best practice to spray this now with a fixative to protect the layer and seal the graphite in a way that still allows for the watercolor to be absorbed into the paper. But if you don't have that, it's not going to be that big of a deal. An HB pencil is not going to smear too much. I'm trying to think of what else I want to add. Let's see. I'll add some diamonds here. I don't think I like that. It looks kind of evil. I don't like that. Feel free to take back your decisions. You don't have to keep it. That's why we're doing in pencil. I'm just gonna make up something right here. And that looks cool. You could do eyebrows on him or her. I feel like I have the flower, so I don't think it needs eyebrows. Okay, starts here. Down. Another diamond. I kind of want light shining from here out. I think that would look nice. Okay, and now we are done. I think I can add more here, but I'm going to pause the video and we'll come back and decorate it. All right, I finished up the designs and I will start the watercolor now. And I'm using a basic Crayola watercolor set. You can use any watercolor that you have. You can even water down acrylic a lot and use that to make it more transparent. I want a big enough brush to cover all of this. And I like using soft brushes for watercolor and for big areas. I do have a color scheme I'm already decided on, which is the split complementary colors. And you see that blue and the split complementary are opposite, and then the two on the left and the two on the right. So it's like an orangey color. So these are colors that visually look good to the eye. There's a science to it. And these color cards are really fun. It's called the Essential Card Deck by Joan Wolfram. I use it to inspire my pieces. I just got it recently, actually, and really enjoying it. Helps you decide on different color schemes. So you want to start with your lightest color. Here's the watercolors that I have. Any will do. You can get at the Dollar Tree. And start with your lightest color. So mine, I'm choosing red, dark red, orange, yellow, and blue. So I'm going to start with the yellow. And this is just a wash. You can always add marker on top of it once it dries. You can fade the colors into each other. So I'm going to put less and less paint on the brush by adding more and more water and working my way down where I want the paint to flow. And it will flow to wherever the water is. Oh, I just used a little too much water there. That's okay. You can go over the shapes or around them, your choice. I think I'm going to go around them for now. I wanted to go over them in case I want to go over them in a different color. So this is just water mostly. You see the graphite's not smearing too much. It's not that big of a deal. But I am upset about the paint mark because it's not in an area that I am covering. But I'll try to hide it with markers later on. Okay, I'm going to get my brush into some orange. Kind of have to add water to the watercolor and make some orange before you use it for the first time. Start here, let it just flow around. And this is a watercolor paper. Okay. It absorbs the colors very nicely. I think I'm going to add the orange on top too. I'll start on the outside and then come back in towards the yellow. I think here I'll just paint over and add some reds on top of the hearts later on. Okay, and then around these petals would be cool. You just fade it by adding some color in between where the colors meet. And the soft brush, the bristles on the brush, that helps with that. Add some more orange here. You want to clean your brush, just dab it on the paper towel, get it wet with water. I think I do want to add some marks where the lines are. Let's see. And it's a good shape for that as a flat brush. This is a 1/2 inch or 13 millimeter sun brush. Okay. Maybe outside of the lines too. I think I do want the inside of the middle of the skull to be orange as well. Go ahead and bring it down. We're going to add black marks with our marker later on. So it'll be a really nice contrast to these colors. I think I'll continue doing this like dark orange on the top and then bringing it down to fade out as I go down. So basically I wet the brush, I dried it a little bit. So wet it, dry it, take some paint off of the brush, and then you just make a line, a pass with the brush, and that gets that fade effect. Shh. Sorry if you can hear my dogs. That looks cool. Okay, so I also want to use blue. I think I'm going to use blue around the eyes, but I'll continue with the orange because I think it's a good base layer. I'll do a little darker here. You can always go over these shapes with marker. Maybe I'll just paint on top here. I'll do a darker orange on the cheek line. Okay, so I think I'm going to fade it into a red on the bottom. I think that'd be really cool. So I'm going to water down the orange like I showed you on the very top of the head. Basically, it's pulling it down. And keep doing that. I could go around the leaves. Oop. I almost stuck my brush in my jar of water that I'm drinking. That's really easy to do. Okay. Basically, I'm putting water where I want the new color to go. It's going to stay watery, but I have to work fast. Going around the shapes here. Watercolor is fun, like when you do this technique here, because the way it fades and makes that gradient is really nice. I'm not going to worry about this part because it's going to be black right there. And add some orange like I did on that side. Now I'm going to go for that red. I'm going to put a lot of water on my brush so I can wake up the color. And maybe I will start fading it here. It's hard when I'm having to go around the leaves. I'm gonna lay this red down and then I'm gonna practice the gradient right up here. Okay, so I'm gonna wet the brush, dab it, and make a pass. Actually, I'm gonna bring it up because over here it's all the way up here, so I'm gonna add some more. Okay. Now let's do that process. And maybe the red will look cool on the cheekbone. Going down here. Just add that pop. And that looks cool. Maybe fade it down here. Okay, I like that. I think adding some red here would be cool too. Almost like a little shadow. Okay. Now, I think I'm done with the color. Maybe I'll fill in the parts I missed here. I do want the heart to be red here. We're gonna let this dry. Shouldn't be too long. Okay, I'm gonna add some blue to the eyes, and that's gonna make everything pop because I'm using that split complementary color combination. And now it's time to switch brushes. It's really easy to try to do everything with one brush, one size. But as you get smaller, you have to switch and just keep in mind of what the tools can do for you. Because that flat brush is not good for these petals, the round, smaller petals. It is bleeding a little bit, which I could just dab with a paper towel. All right. I did add water to these petals right before, so that's why it's spreading. You don't have to do that. If you want everything tighter and not spread at all, then you don't have to do that. But I like the watercolor look and the variation of darks and lights in each petal. I think it's pretty. Yeah, it is definitely smearing, which I could cover with a marker. That's fine. I like that it's not perfect. Nope, I added a lot of paint on that brush. See how the water I put already on the petals is drying up. So this is what it looks like when it's dry, but then you add the watercolor. I'm just gonna add some more water. See, add water to these petals, and then I'll go back and add more blue. I think another thing is that when you do watercolor, as it's drying, the paper kind of curls and shrinks or expands It just moves, so it's actually rising up. So that's why it's leaking around because it's not perfectly flat. And that's okay. There's a lot of pigment on that brush, so I'm just spreading it around and then I'll move it around from there. That's one way to get paint off your brush. Okay, more. Okay, so the rest of the elements I could paint or I could just use a marker. I think that looks cool like that. I think the rest would be good in marker. I could do these parts. Just play around here and see what happens. Oops. Okay. Now I feel like I have to do the rest of them because I did one. I do like how it looks though. Okay, now I'm going to do the diamond blue because it'll look cool. The fun part is that you get to make all the decisions. This is your piece of art, and the possibilities are endless. Whatever you can imagine, that's what you can do. Maybe I'll make the inside of this red. Let's see what happens. Probably gonna turn into purple. See a dot of water, and then get some red. That's fine. All right. Came out a little muddy. That's okay. I think I want to add some orange to this. Blue is really wet, so I'm going to try not to touch it. Okay. Now we're going to go in with marker. I mean, I could do this flower in watercolor still. At this point, the choice is up to you. If you want it more opaque and like dark and not see-through, then I would start with the acrylics. But if you want it a little bit transparent and you want to try first to see how it looks, and you can always go over it in acrylics. But if you do acrylics first, you can't do watercolor on top of that because you won't be able to see it. Maybe I'll try that. I'll do black, but I also want to maybe add some purple. That's a dark green. Do I not have black here? All right, I don't have black in this set. This is a dark green, so I'm gonna try again. Weird. Not really. Yep. Maybe I could do the dark green in here and see how it looks here. I'll try some purple just for fun. I'm gonna add these darks here, and I can always do black later on. Dimension. Switch brushes for the details. I'm really enjoying this watercolor on the watercolor paper. On the wood, I really enjoyed the acrylic. So it all depends on what surface you're using. See how dark watercolor can be when you use a little bit of water and you don't put water down first onto the paper? It can be pretty dark, especially if you use gouache, which is a condensed version of watercolor. There's a lot of pigment in it. I'm using watercolor paper and I used a lot of acrylics for this one, but I feel like with this watercolor paper, I really do not need the acrylics. So I'm going to jump into marker. If you are going to do acrylics, I would do them now. I did this petal in acrylics in a very small brush, something like this. And I did these in acrylics. I did acrylic and marker here. Let's see, this is acrylic, this hot pink and the blue. Any kind of really opaque color that you see is acrylic. And I used a fabric like the puppy paint. I used that for the dots of hot pink. I'm going to start the marker now, and you will see the whole process. I'm basically outlining whatever I feel like needs to be outlined. I can add some dimension, and I can even color this black inside. I'll have to make that decision soon. The fun part with sugar skulls is to outline things and add more detail, especially since this is watercolor. I want to sharpen it up a little bit too. So I want it sharp around the fluid colors, and it'll make for a really cool contrast. And I might even outline the whole thing in marker to give some more dimension. And I can outline it in the color that it already is, and it may or may not make a difference. So you just have to try and find out. It's very experimental as long as you go in the correct process. Use the pencil first and then the watercolor and then the acrylic. And if you did do acrylic paint right now, just let it dry and it's fine to do marker on top of acrylic paint. All right, guys, I think I'm gonna call this done, but the middle of the eyes are bugging me, so I'm just gonna cover them and see what happens. I think it would look better. And I painted an acrylic background to add some more contrast. And this is acrylic as well. I'm using Liquitex basic acrylics. I think that looks better. And it matches the background too. I hope you guys had fun with this. I hope you're happy with the sugar skull that you did. And I hope that you can dedicate it to someone you want to remember and hang it up on your wall and be proud of your unique creation. You made all these decisions, and through it, you're able to develop your creative confidence. And I encourage you to do other experiments like this and just play around with different mediums. You could check out my website at mixedmediamindset.com. I have workshops, and you can look at my Patreon community info below as well. And keep creating and having fun.